read what you want. Read what you enjoy reading. And don't let anybody shame you for it.
How long has it been since we last did this? Like March,
like 3
April?
months.
March, April?
Yeah.
It's been this was our April pick.
Yeah.
Summers are rough.
It's August. This was our April pick. We picked a different A month.
Yeah, that's true. We still did it though.
We did. It's true.
Okay, are we ready for this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Do we all have a physical copy of this book? Well, no, you used your Katie's.
We have 2 physical copies.
Oh, thanks,
I spilled
Dad.
coffee on this one. Well, Julian spilled coffee on this one.
You know what's funny? I have toothpaste on mine. And tea.
I love that.
This is what
Julian
happens.
decided one day he was going to grab cups off the end table, and the cup happened to still have coffee in it.
Gave it character.
This is what happens when a book has been on my floor of my room for 3 months.
Oh.
But it would move spots on my floor. Because y'all know
Right,
me,
right.
I'm not going to read a book until we pick the date.
Yeah.
Which I still don't understand how you're just like, all right, we're doing it in 3 days, and I'm done. Okay.
Well, because it all depended on when we were going to do it. I was like, well, if we pick the day after I go to the concert, I can just read it on the Greyhound. And I was like, I
Right.
know I have time to do it. I was like, all right, cool, I got this, you know?
It's only 400 pages. Light work, no reaction.
No, the funny thing is that Sunday when I got back to Oceanside, when I did most of the reading, because, Greyhounds take a while sometimes, I had the biggest headache from, like no sleep the day before, like getting ready for the weekend. I was like, I needed to make sure I had things recorded and edited, so that way I can leave for the weekend good. And so Sunday morning when I woke up, it was like 8-something. I had like the fattest headache in the world. And my Greyhound actually was pushed back because my original one was supposed to get me back in Oceanside at like 12 or 1. I didn't get back to my house until 8 at night.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because they're like, your bus is going to be late. You can either get a refund or like get a later bus.
Thanks.
I gotta get back either way, so...
And then I was like, all right, I guess I'll just read.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been several months, few months. This was our April pick, but it's now August. But Mary said, an A is an A.
It's true, yeah.
A for effort.
It doesn't matter if you win by an inch or a mile, You still
We finished the book, and that's what matters. Well,
Exactly.
Define we.
most of us.
Yeah, so for those new here, I'm Lucia.
I'm Katie.
And I'm Mary.
And for the month of jumping off of April, landing into August, we read Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. I think that's how you say her name.
That sounds right. That's how I would say it.
Yeah.
Seems fitting. It was just tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow until we finished it.
Yeah, I forgot the ads. I just said tomorrow. Usually whenever we do our book discussions, my first question is, did you like the book? And I felt like that's a little complicated for me. What did y'all feel? Well,
I would agree. Notes. I did. This is the first time I annotated a book, so.
Yeah.
But, it wasn't what I thought it was going in. Somebody told me this was a romance. Not a romance at all. So, there was immediate disappointment because I was expecting a romance. But then when I got over that, I enjoyed the premise of it. It really reminded me of Perks of Being a Wallflower. And that was a really important book to me growing up. But I don't know that this is something that I would have gone to knowing that ahead of time. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, 100%. But also, right here, it says this is a love story, but not one you've read before.
Yeah. So, it's marketed a bit as a love story, and it's really not in the way that the book community uses the word love story.
Yeah.
It's not.
I think it is a story of love, but it is not a love story.
But it's not like a romantical love. It's a platonical love.
Yeah.
That's what it's about, is their friendship and their relationship with what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's not about romance.
Because they said it so much. By the way, for those who don't know, this book is about there's two main characters. So Sadie, right? And Sam.
Sadie and Sam, yeah.
Not confusing at all.
Sadie and Sam, and their lives and the people they interact with as they met as children, they separated as children, they met again as when one was in Harvard and the other one is at MIT. So they're really smart, and they decide to make a game together, and the trials and tribulations of knowing someone so much that it can harm you, like to the core, and also like again separating and coming back together tomorrow, and but more than that, because I remember, I'm not going to tell you what thrift store, but I work at a thrift store, and I remember this book coming in one day. Someone donated it, and at the store I work at, I go through all the books and media that people donate, and so I see books all the time. And so I remember seeing this book, and I thought I really like the cover. And if you notice, it's actually the Great Wave, which is an important part of the story. Interpretation of the Great Wave. And I thought, it's really cool. So I read the synopsis, and the game they decide to make, because they're making games, is called Ichigo. And Ichigo is the name of a character in an anime called Bleach, which is one of my favorites growing up. So I was already like, yeah, let's do this. Now, I personally don't necessarily play video games, but I still think 100% it's a great story format, So with those things, I was like, yeah, let's do this. But for me, I was like, I like it in a technical aspect, actually, because the author doesn't shy away from having her readers like, yo, we talked about this, remember this, you got to keep up. And she doesn't let you dummy yourself by reading it, which because it's not completely linear story wise. You jump from people to people, and you jump from sort of timelines, and it's like, wait, we mentioned something this a little bit ago, like I said, you gotta keep up with it. Now, as a story itself, I kind of felt like a disconnect from some of the characters emotionally wise, and that could be because the way she wrote it. And so that's why I'm like,
from what I did read, from what I did read, I didn't connect to Sadie at all.
No, I didn't. No, me either. She's the one that I was like the most with. Yeah. But yeah, so like it's hard for me to say if I liked it. Like on one hand, yes, because like I mentioned the technical aspects, and the second hand, it is something, a love story, if you want to call it that I haven't read before. So in predicament, I'm like, okay, it's different. I kind of like it, but it's different than I thought it was going to be. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think if this is your genre, you'll really like this book.
It is good for what it is. Like, you can't deny that. It's just not necessarily what I wanted.
Yeah. So, again, technical aspect, I liked it. Oh, Julian.
She hid the milk for like 3 seconds and he lost his mind.
Oh, Julian. Okay. Now, that was a book talk. We found it interesting. Just kidding.
That's it.
Shortest book talk in the entire world.
Honestly, it was. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, the concept of this book, though, is what also intrigued me, because in video games and in stories, you immortalize yourself and you get to be a rebirth over and over, because when you die in a video game, you can just hit restart, or you can, try to go in and try and, beat the level at the lives you have left. And that's a reoccurring theme. Not only with the characters' lives in the video games, but in the chapters itself. You notice the different sections start over at chapter 1, and it's to me, it's like at one part like a checkpoint, but also a redo, a tomorrow. You get to redo over, and so So I thought that was cool too. So like, for example, for those who haven't read it, like chapter 3 is Unfair Games, which is the name of the game company they create. And then chapter 4 is Both Sides, which is another game. But at each of the starting points in each of those chapters, they actually start over at chapter 1.
Yeah, they're like, you're like getting the same story from different views in a different way.
Mm-hmm. And but again, it just coincides with the game aspect of starting over from like the beginning again. Because if you notice, I actually can't say if this is 100% true, but because Sadie and Sam separated a lot, when they came back together, they would, or some way or another, they would restart the next chapter of their life. But yeah, we have different characters in this book. We have Sadie, who I believe went to Harvard, and we meet Sam and Sadie when they're, 10 years old or something. Sadie's sister has cancer, and then she was bored, and so she just, at the hospital, which, no fault of her own, it's they even said it in the book, it's a type of cancer that her sister beats pretty, quote unquote, not easily, but she was able to beat it. But she goes wandering around the hospital, and she sees Sam, who's playing a game, and unknowns to us until a little bit later, Sam got, we know right away that has a really bad foot, but he hadn't spoken to anyone in months, literally months, and she's the first person to open up to, and simply by the beauty of a video game, you know?
Honestly, the progression of Sam's life getting to the point where they meet was very interesting, but you don't get the whole thing till almost the end of the book.
Yeah. So it's do you want to know what happened? We'll keep reading. And that's what I was that's what I was talking about as the author making those choices to forcing her reader to keep up. I appreciated it. Because I don't read a lot of that, because the stuff I read is usually or sometimes they'll go flashback, but they'll do it in italic, or they're this is the different time, you look at the different font. So I appreciated it. And,
I found those first 100 pages to be really boring.
They were,
which is part of the reason why I really could not read this book. And I'm sure if I go back and actually sit down and fully read it, I'll really enjoy this book. But I skimmed most of it. That's not going to be a big surprise to you guys. I did not finish this book in its technicality. I skimmed a lot of it. I read all of Katie's notes. I have an understanding of what happens in this book, but it was not for me, and I didn't want to have to skip out again. So I do plan on trying to read this to its full extent, but I know what happens in it.
I'll be honest, I didn't actually get hooked into the book until they had the mass shooting at their office. That was the moment where I was oh, this is actually interesting, and that's literally almost the end of the book.
Yeah.
So
and that's for some of the reviews that I saw. They were it's boring, it's fine, and it's great. It's really good.
Yeah.
That's the only part I felt like a connection to, because Marks, who was Sam's roommate in college, or I would even say a brother in their own sense, in Sadie's future love interest, the father of her baby, because they have the Unfair Games, two guys decide to go into the office looking for Sam, because Sam made a game and they allowed gay marriage with the best, had Sadie was suggested it, be hey, we should have legalized marriage in our game. And so they did, and some guy got pissed, decided to bring some guns into the office, and Sam and Sadie weren't there. They were at a convention in Texas, I think. I could be wrong on that, but I think Texas. And Marks got shot 3 times trying to protect Simon, who was another one of their game developers. And at first, because we slip into Marx's perspective at different points too of the story, and when he's in the hospital, he would start different chapters or sections, alive, and then another one being dead, or I'm dying, and that's the only time that I felt a connection.
That whole bit of him in the hospital was just really well done, and I really enjoyed reading it. It was an interesting way to progress the story of him in the hospital without you just reading, oh, he's limp. Like, you're getting his unconscious thoughts while he's in that coma, which is really...
And it should be mentioned that part, it's called the NPC, and it's written in second person.
It is, yeah.
Which is very, very hard to do. And the only way that you're able to get a connection to it is if it's done well.
Yeah.
There are very, very few things that I've read in second person, and they're usually, like, very short. I don't think I've ever read a full-length book in second person. And if you don't know what second person is, it's when everything is written as, you are this character, you are doing this, rather than, I am doing this, or Sam is doing this. That's third person, I is first person, so.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember if I've ever read a book in second person, or like a full one.
I've read like a novella. It's very common, honestly.
Because it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And not a lot of people probably want to read it.
Can you reach that rag on the couch behind you?
But yeah. Yeah, that's the only part of the story I felt a connection to. I wasn't like, it wasn't like a gaping hole or anything in my heart, but I was like, in terms of characters to enjoy, I would say Mark's was my favorite in terms of like personality wise, you know, the big brother.
Yeah.
But I had issues with Sadie. I wouldn't say from the start, but a lot of it from the, you know.
It's interesting because Sadie is the one that I connected to the most, but Sadie and I had very similar experiences in our college life. Like some of the things that Sadie went through with Dav is something that I also went through in college to a degree. Not like the bondage stuff, but like the abusive relationship. I'm so confused.
I read that it all happened. Trust me, my biggest issue was Dav and all the sex talk in this book.
Dav is an asshole.
Dav is an asshole.
And I mean that with my whole heart, not like when I say Rice is an asshole.
Reese!
I'm sorry.
But Rice, because I also did that. If you don't know, that's Akatar. That is our biggest joke.
Maybe I'll read that eventually.
But like, because I empathize with what she was going through, I think was the connecting point. Like, I understood what she was going through and then the healing journey afterwards, because it's something I had been through.
Well, I would agree too in the fact that if you're like, I can sympathize, but at the same time, I'm like, bro, I'm going to call you a stupid idiot. But at the same time, I've personally never gone through that, so I'm not going to know 100%. And that's what I thought too when I was reading it. Because I was like, oh, well, I can say all I want. Like, I'm not stupid enough to, or naive enough, or gullible enough, or anything enough, because I can't put myself directly in that position. Now, I know people, my mother, have been in similar situations. So I can, but like, for example, with my mother's situation, I'm not looking at it as her daughter. Whenever everything was happening, I would look at it almost like, that's not my mom. That's someone I know who's letting it happen. And so I'm like, what, like, should I acknowledge it? And that's almost what, as a reader, reading Sadie's stuff, I almost felt like I acknowledged it, but like, what can I do? Nothing if she's not helping herself. And that's not fair too, because like on me, oh no baby, it's one of those things. It's like, oh Julian,
I think he wants a cuddle.
No, he doesn't feel good today. What's the matter?
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's just cranky today.
Just ignore me. I'm going to make all these faces.
It's okay. But,
Gotta keep the baby happy.
For sure. Ben boy, go play with Julian.
Ben's like, I'm done.
He's like, I carried that baby for 9 months. I'm good. But yeah, it's just, it was hard for me to, like, without sounding like an asshole, You know, it's like, bro, that's on you.
Just gonna agree with everything she says because we can't hear anything.
Oh no.
No, we heard Dov is an asshole, and that's it.
That's a correct statement.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, okay.
Can you hear me?
We can still hear you.
We just can't see you. It's fine. Keep going.
It's just my face.
Oh, there we are.
Huh.
That's fine.
No, like on the real though, right now my house doesn't have Wi-Fi for whatever reason. I noticed it as we were recording, and I was like, "Why I hate my fucking house. It has like terrible connection. Like it has the worst connection to the Wi-Fi in the history of connections of even people like you probably have better connection, and y'all live where y'all sometimes get power outages.
Yeah, every time it storms.
But yeah,
it's like I also like Sadie and Dov's relationship. Like immediately gave me the ick because I'm really just not a fan of teacher-student. Which I started the love hypothesis yesterday, and like that's what that is.
You didn't know that?
I did not know, and I immediately was like, I'm grossed out.
That's
like it doesn't matter.
Zodiac Academy because there isn't that.
The love hypothesis.
Oh yeah. That book is
because
so
I was like looking. It's so what?
Boring.
I started it because it's all over as a YA romance. It's fun to read. Blah blah blah.
Rilo Ken fanfic.
I do know that, but I was like, okay, whatever. And then I started it, and I was like, oh my god, I immediately dislike this. But I'm not a quitter, so I'm going to read it anyways.
Oh, I'm a quitter. It takes a lot for me to quit, though.
Hi, Juliet.
That's part of the reason why I don't really want to read Zodiac Academy is because there's a teacher, even if it's just one relationship, there's a teacher-student relationship.
And it doesn't matter if they're actually like it's not their teacher or if they're like of the same age because like they're in college or whatnot. It just I don't like it. It's so gross. Like you're crossing a boundary when you do that.
But
so like I immediately disliked Dov even before I found out he was an asshole. So
yeah, but like how is she going to just like allow herself to talk to him after everything? Like she got so mad at Sam that she deliberately put a distance between him with her conceived thinking that she didn't care about her feelings, even though and she turns around and still talks to Dov. Like I don't understand you. You're
you can't be mad at Sam when you're just doing it anyways.
Yeah, and then she's like, well, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have gone on to be in a relationship with him and then been there for 3 years. They're like, no, B, that's on you.
No, that's still, you made that choice.
And then, like, when they first started, and she's like, yeah, he's married and he won't leave his wife. She's like, I didn't
Red
know.
flags.
So many. And, like, he even says, like, she's finally agreed to a divorce. It's just going to be long and costly. And then it's been another 2 years and they're still not divorced.
Yeah.
And I think he's, like, in Israel at that point, like, visiting.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like, what is happening?
Like, that's on you, my girl. That's on you.
Yeah.
And she's like...
You made those choices.
That's like I know it's an asshole move to say, but considering her relationship with Dov, I 100% knew that she and Marks were gonna get together.
Yeah,
I was like, this is a done deal.
I liked your note in there. She's like, she's pregnant, huh? Because there are moments where she's just like, I gotta throw up. Yeah. I'm like, mood.
Oh yeah, no, I knew that too. I was like, it's bound to happen. I almost, like they had a checkboard for the games that they wanted to make and everything. I almost felt like in my mind when the author was making this book, I was like, she also wrote on a giant, not checkboard, but a dry erase board. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, I also pictured in my mind the author doing that. Like, okay, we have our Asians, we have our Korean, Japanese, we have a Jewish person, we have our main guy has had affiliations with the same sex, we also have a gun not a terrorist but a gun attack, we also like a shooting,
right?
We had traveling places, we have all these pretentious name drops of all these paintings and games, and as the author reader have to look them up.
There was so much language in here that I understand that the characters are very smart, so it has to be very smart language, but it almost took me out of the book as well because I didn't understand most of what was being said. There were so many big words when it could have she could have used less big words.
Yeah.
Yes, they're very smart, but not all very smart people use the biggest word in the dictionary.
Like, for example, me, I majored in English and theater. You think I talk naturally the way that I did when I wrote papers in school? No, bro.
No.
Do you imagine if all theater majors just spoke like Shakespeare for the rest of their lives?
Oh,
I would hate all theater majors, and I was a theater
I already hate all theater majors.
I mean, yeah.
And I was one.
Yeah, exactly. We were all theater kids. Keeds. But I do want to bring that up too. I kind of mentioned this, and I'm gonna take a slight dip into something slightly different. I mentioned earlier, but just like the doing over of the idea, the concept of getting to start over, because of the use of games, because when you die in a game, you can do recheck point it, but also the idea of immortality is also kind of brought up too in this. And if you think about it, people's works and what they leave behind is their legacy, is them living on. Like Shakespeare, for instance, he lived how many years ago, and people are still writing about him, still talking about him, still learning from him. So, I don't know, I just thought it was cool. The tomorrow, they got that from Macbeth. And it was a Marx's line that he said from the story.
Yeah, it's a passage that Marx gets up and screams at one point.
And so I don't know. I really liked it. The redoing, the concept of a redo, but also the idea of living forever because you have what you made. You can never take that away from anyone. Like someone may stop playing your game, but as long as you have one reader, as long as you have one player, then someone else gets to know about it. Because it gets passed on. So I also really like that. Basically, Marx is the best.
I think them showing them fail at things too really hits home how even if it's just one person, you still did something important, and them coming to terms with that.
Yeah. I really liked the one part of Dov that I really liked was his conversation with Sadie when she was like, I failed. And he's like,
oh, yeah.
You didn't fail. Your game failed.
Yeah.
You are succeeding.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Smelly burp.
Juliet!
This is Julian's take on the book, in case you were wondering. He has a lot of thoughts.
Yeah.
I actually read it to him as a bedtime story.
Yeah, he's quite verbose for a little child.
That's baby boy.
That's a lie. We've been reading Winnie the Pooh for 3 months.
It's still pretty verbose.
Honestly, the original Winnie the Pooh stories are the funniest thing I have ever read. Hilarious. The whole premise is Christopher Robin's dad is telling him stories about what the characters do.
Yeah.
So it's the book is written as if Christopher Robin's dad is the narrator. But there's also points where Christopher Robin interrupts him, and you read their it's so funny to listen to. I've been enjoying reading them.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? Also, this I've never read the Winnie the Pooh books. Maybe as a kid.
This is the first time I've read them. Yeah.
So have a child. Got it.
I was expecting them to just be what the show was and just tell you the little stories, but it's so funny. And the things that they say, and there's certain ways that he capitalizes words when they're talking to make them really important. And there's this whole bit where Pooh is in the tree trying to get honey, and he's just I think the bees are getting suspicious, and the word suspicious is capitalized every time he says it, and it's just so funny to read.
That's cute. People also donate the Winnie the Pooh books all the time too at the thrift store.
I love them. They're so cute.
You should bring them home.
I can't shop at the store I work at.
Why?
It's just
because she knows all the good stuff that's there.
Exactly. So you can give me good stuff.
No, we have to go in and buy her the stuff. And then she gives us her discount in other parts of her chain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But back to the book for a moment. Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
But how did y'all... I know we briefly mentioned Sadie and how we had some qualities that we liked and disliked about her, but there are other characters in this book. Did you like Sam?
Sam is a jerk.
100%.
Sam is not a person that I would like.
Zoe was fine. But I really only liked Mark.
Yeah. Like, if I met Sam and, like, knew him in real life, I would not like him. Just on premise. He was a little bit, like, self-righteous and felt like he deserved a lot because a lot had been taken from him.
Yeah. One of my favorite things was, and also I do agree with you, Katie, about Sadie's journey. You know, how much she changed from the dumb college kid into motherhood, and how much that changed. I did enjoy that. I did. I forgot to mention that when we talked about her a moment ago. But Sam, I feel like, on one hand, I wonder if all the things, you know, like the lady dying in front of him, his mom dying next to him, you know, his foot getting crushed, basically he has to chop it off later in life. But, like, I wonder if none of that stuff would have happened if he would have not been emotionally stunted.
Right.
You know, because, like...
probably. That's a lot. Like, he had a really traumatic first 10 years of his life, and then it just kept going. Yeah,
and then he didn't know his dad either. I mean, like, he saw him, but, like, he wasn't in his life or anything like that. Well, so, I wonder, like, if that wouldn't have happened, where would he have been, you know? And then, but they even mention it, you know, like later on when they're older. Like, it wouldn't have mattered if I wasn't in the hospital that day. We would have, him and Sadie were talking, Sam and Sadie were talking. We would have met someday. Somehow, we would have met. Yeah. And instead of a story about love, you know, a romantic love, because we mentioned this earlier too, I think it's a meeting of souls. You know, they were meant to be. Yeah. And maybe in this life that they're living now, you know, they're platonic, you know, friends that separate, but maybe in the next life they're lovers. Maybe in the next life they're mother and son. Maybe in the next life they're something else. So I do like that idea. And I quickly was fine with the fact that they would never get together. I thought if Max died, you know, like, I didn't want him to die, but since he died, I was like, would they get together then? But on one hand, I was like, oh, they should have. But on the other hand, I'm like, more happily that they didn't. Because they said it so many times that, like, you know, they don't want to mess up the thing that makes them by love. But also, they didn't love each other in a physical sense.
No, it was very platonic, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, platonic love is just as important.
100%.
And I think that's, thinking back, what she meant about a love story you've never read before, because you never really get a love story about platonic friends.
Yeah.
Like, off the top of my head, the only other one I read is Infernal Devices, so, like...
No shit, you know, I thought of that too when I read this. I'm not even joking with you. I thought of them when I was reading this. Because, like, okay, you very have much about the strong, strapping guy, you have the girl, you have the small friend. He also has a cane. Yeah. You know? Like, obviously their story is different, obviously. But, like, I thought of them too.
Too many similarities now I'm thinking about it. I don't like it. Get me out of here.
Are you looking at yourself?
Like I shit you not, because the book was also in LA, and I wasn't in LA when I was reading it, but I was close to LA when I was reading it, and I was like, what the heck? And they were also in New York, and y'all were in New York? Or in New York, and I was thinking about that. And I was not even joking. And then when I go over there in October and we meet Cassandra Clare, I'm going to tell her that I like the Infernal Devices.
Of the books I've read, I liked this one.
Jem has my whole heart. Yep, I love Jem. Any of the games that they mentioned, would y'all play any of the games that they, you know, mentioned or that they made? Would y'all do that?
I think I might enjoy playing through a couple of the games they made. The ones that they mentioned that are like actual games. I actually don't know if the games they made are real games or not. I'll be honest.
Probably not.
But like the ones that they mentioned that I know are real games are definitely not games that I would be interested in. But I'm also a serial Sims player, so like.
I think you would like the one with the mayor, right?
Yeah, that's the one that I like immediately was like, oh, that sounds fun. Let's go.
Yeah. I'm not a gamer either. When I was on the Greyhound coming back this way, I was coming back to Oceanside. I was on the bus and I was reading, and this guy behind me, but like over the seat over, asked me about my Charmed tattoo, and I was like, oh, it's from Charmed. And then he asked me what I was reading, and I told him it's called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. And he's like, oh, what's it about? One hand, I'm thinking, bro, I want to read a book. Leave me alone.
Stop talking to me, please.
Stop talking.
But on the other hand, I was like, I'm not so totally invested that I can't stop to chat for a moment, you know? But I told him it was about video games. He's like, oh, do you play? And I'm like, no, I don't play video games.
No. I do not. Thanks for asking.
But
I'm probably the only gamer in here. I play Call of Duty.
Okay, yeah. Growing up, my
that was
siblings
mentioned
would
in there at
play.
least once.
But my brother Brandon would, when we were younger, would be like, "Can you play with me?" And I'd be like, I'll sit next to you while you play." Yeah, I would read while he gamed. That was our. That was us. Hi. We both like.
This is Julian's review, actually. Oh my God, that was close.
You're okay. You're okay.
No.
He so badly wants to move, and he just can't figure it out.
He's standing pretty well, though.
Good job.
Gotta hold him. Not great on the balance, but
Get there.
working on the leg strength.
Yeah. I feel like there's so much more that there needs to be talked about. I think one of my another favorite characters are the grandparents. I love the grandparents.
I loved them. They were so cute. I'm a sucker for cute grandparents.
Yep. Well, we also forgot to mention that the reason why they separated when they were younger is because Sam felt like an obligation, a duty, and charity, or not charity, but like service, because Sadie wanted to hang out with him and also do her bat mitzvah community service stuff, and so he felt
so that was very, very mean of her.
She never told
to have
him.
never tell him that, like, yes, I am your friend, but I'm also low-key doing this for service.
You also noticed that
she should have told him that.
Later on in life, they also didn't tell him about Mark's and hers relationship.
Yeah.
Which they should have. Like, I couldn't imagine having a prolonged relationship with someone and not telling the close people in my life.
A year.
Yeah, like, I could understand, like, a couple weeks, maybe a month, because you're not really positive yet.
Yeah.
But, like, a whole year, that's too much. Yeah. Especially if you are both in the same circle and you were always around all of the same people.
Yeah.
First of all, how does nobody put two and two together? Y'all are just great at non-PDA?
Nah. Yeah. Suddenly, Marks and Sadie start to take a trip. Oh, also another reason why I knew that they would get together is when Marks' ex-girlfriend, what was her name? Joy? I don't remember her name.
Zoe?
Zoe, yeah. I said Joy. Nurse Joy. When they're like, y'all should kiss. But like when they're on drugs, and Marks wasn't, but when they're on drugs, and she's like, "Oh, this is what it feels like. It's so good." I was like, 100% new. And even when they're in college, when Sam was like, "Don't date her" or whatever, I was like, "Nah, fam, they're gonna date eventually."
Mm-hmm. There's a really beautiful passage that we've like mentioned Zoe in the NPC chapter where. Because it's all for Marcus' preview, and like he's dying, but like there's this thought of like how beautiful it is to keep a relationship with an ex-lover.
Yeah,
just because you still love them so much.
Yeah, you don't stop
that
loving them.
You can break up, you can still be friends with somebody and change that relationship.
Yeah,
no matter what it is, like you could date for however long, end on good or bad terms. I believe it ended on good terms, right?
Yeah.
And then just change that love to a love of the person. You don't have to be physical to still love that person. I thought that was very beautiful because she even comes back and is like you're fine, you're okay, we'll be fine.
Yeah, you better. She's like, you better not die. I can't imagine a world without you in it, or something like that. I do want to note that when Sam and Sadie first meet up again at the train station, they were looking at that illusion paper, the poster. And Sadie was like, "Oh, I can see it," and Sam's like, "Oh no, I can't see it. It's fine, but I'm gonna pretend like I can." Obviously, they're very much aware of the fact that he can't see it, but eventually we learn that he looks at it again and sees it, and it's, I believe, that of a bird, right?
That sounds right.
Yeah, so I just wanted to confirm that that's what it was. But I liked how when Marx was dying, he imagined himself soaring like a bird. So I really liked that nice, connection. Yeah,
it tied it all together. Yeah.
And another one of those connections, little things, is when Sadie visits what is it, Donghyun's pizza restaurant, Sam's grandfather's pizza restaurant, and she mentions like, oh, these cool posters, but then there's the old poster of a lady, Korean lady with a drink, and we learn that's his mom's.
You find out later it's his mom.
Yeah, because before she died, they would, she was an actress, and also this book also had a lot of like. They talked about feminism and also the crushing of women in the times in the 90s. And they also talked about racist, like, oh, you have to change your name, Asian women can only have so many parts as an actress. And that's what I was thinking about when I was saying, the author had the white, or the like, great, gotta check this off.
It definitely is a book full of a lot of non-stereotypical white people, which you don't see a lot, and I think that's fun too.
Yeah, there was an interesting passage for Sam where he talks about how he wasn't always accepted in the Asian community because he was a white boy. Then he wasn't accepted in the white community because he's a little Asian boy. Yeah. And then Koreatown was the only place that he felt accepted.
Yeah. I actually, when I read that part, it reminded me of the Selena. If we're not Mexican enough, we're not American enough. Yeah. It just reminded me of that. What else is there? I do like how the hidden tracks or hidden pathways that Sam and his mother would try and find, and he eventually found one. And I really like that. I want to know
if those are real, first of all.
I wonder. And it's the 3 dots. Look like a gang initiation tattoo.
Yeah.
I liked the mazes that Sam did.
The mazes were very cute. I thought it was a neat little thing that kind of pulled through the whole story too.
And that like Sadie framed one.
Yes.
And he was like, why did she keep it? I'm going to make her a different one.
Yep. And you also learned that this is a little fuzzy. Like they started when he was a child with his mom, I believe. And then it just kind of went on from there. Yeah. Did you like the fact that, they separated at the end, that you don't know if they'll ever get back in the friend game together?
I kind of always enjoy books that are really open-ended because it allows you to kind of piece what you want together.
I like open-ended to an extent. I like to have like some sort of conclusion. Like if the rest of the story, which I guess in this case, like, could be it. The rest of the story is up to interpretation, then sure. As long as the book itself has a conclusive ending of like whatever the events that took place, and then it's not just like maybe it ended well, we don't know.
I think in the instance of this book, it makes a lot of sense because it is just about day-to-day life and the way that people interact, and that none of it is really set in stone. So like nothing is for certain. So like leaving it open just re-solidifies that anything can happen at any moment, which is kind of the
you don't get it tomorrow
book.
You don't get it tomorrow or tomorrow or tomorrow. You get it right now.
Yeah.
And the possibility.
I think I liked from what I had read, I think I liked the that it took place over so long that you get enough of what happens in their life rather than in a lot of other stories where it's like maybe a year at most. You get in the book or the series or whatever, you get a couple years. This took place over decades of life, and it showed you their journey. So their end of the story hasn't happened yet because they're not dead.
Yeah, that's fair. It starts when they're 10, and at the end of the book they're like 43, 42, something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Something that I would hate if I didn't bring up, because like, oh, like if I forgot it later, so I'm bringing it up. Grief. Mark's died. He was a partner in the company with Sadie and Sam. Sadie was pregnant. She didn't want that building anymore, and she curled in herself, and obviously was very depressed. Sam compartmentalized and was like, I need to go on for the sake of everyone in the company, for the company itself.
Yeah.
So it's dealing with grief in different ways. Are you upset with her? Are you upset that he yelled at her? Does it make sense to you? Or do you think they're both any in the wrong of how they handled the grief? What do you think?
I'm a Sam with my grief. I definitely am the kind of person who
will lashes out, but also distracts myself with anything and everything. Yeah. So like I would 100% yes, go back to work, pick up the job that needs to be done, and then be mad that she's not doing the same. Yeah.
Yeah. I am too.
I'm kind of the same. I haven't experienced a lot of grief in my life. And the times that I haven't had the privilege to just stay and wallow.
Yeah.
So I've just kind of kept going until it hit me many months, many weeks, however much time it took, until it hit me later. Or I'll like think about it 3 years later, talk about the person and be like, why am I crying?
But I think Sadie is valid as well. Especially because when you think about it, she lost a little bit more than Sam did.
Yeah. She lost the father of her child. And like the closest person to her at that moment in time. Sam just lost his best friend, which isn't like to say it's nothing, but like
he's an NPG. Marx is a non-playable game player. NPC.
Yeah. Which NPCs are important as well, though, because without them, the world doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's what Marx tells him. That's what Marx tells Sam. He's like, you can call me that you want. I'm still important. But yeah, I agree. I am the type of person where grief, it's funny. It's like, grief is a, like, for instance, earlier in July 16th was the anniversary of my dog's dying. I knew it was going to be a hard day. I thought it was going to be like, okay, I'll just go to work and distract myself, I was on the bus to go to work, and my sister called me to be like, hey, have a good day at work. If you need me, call me, sort of thing. And obviously prior to that point, I was crying. But when she called me, I just like broke down and I had to get off the bus because I was like hyperventilating,
Yeah.
So grief is a funny thing. And then I stayed home, drank a lot, and got high, which I don't typically do. But grief is funny.
Right. Grief is funny. And it changes so much.
Yeah.
And I think watching both of them go through that journey is always a really appreciative thing, because no grief journey is ever the same either.
My mom, I'm going to mention my mom again, but she went through a period of grief over a relationship where she didn't get out of her room whatsoever. Like for like months, it felt like she didn't leave her room. And my sister, because we were young at this time, she's the one buckled down and took care of us essentially. And so it reminded me of Sadie just leaving herself in her room. Obviously we find out later that Sadie aborted a baby. So it's different, but just it's interesting the way people handle their grief. But yeah. Do you actually think that Sam and Sadie, vice versa, love each other? Because they would say love you, and he would say
do.
I do like how when Sam's grandfather died, Dong-hyun, he learned what, because for the longest time he wouldn't say I love you back to anyone, but when his grandfather died, he told him he loved him, because he's like, what's the point of not saying it? You don't know when they're gonna pass away. I personally have a thought like, oh, Sam has seen so much craziness and loss already, he doesn't want to say I love you to someone, because what if what if that chips off more of him, and so if you don't love someone, it won't hurt as much. That's my theory about it.
He keeps everyone at arm's length because he's lost so much already, which I think is part of what made it so him and Sadie could never really be together, is that he was never willing to take that step, to let somebody in that way.
I mean, because when you think about it, when remember when Sam shaved off his head, when he finally was like, "When are y'all gonna tell me y'all are together?" sort of thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we're getting married too. Like, how are you gonna? Or he didn't say get married. They didn't say get married then, but they're gonna move in together. How is he gonna be the one to tell y'all like it's fine that y'all are together? But anyways, later that same night. He gets drunk and Marks finds him, and that's when, he calls him a non-playable character. And it could be because he's drunk, or it could be because these were his true feelings. But he was like, she was mine, and he's like, that's not a possession. He's not your possession. But also at the same time, he was speaking about how Sam, was too late. If only he had the guts and was willing enough to step forward and be like, hi, this is how I feel about you. And even, he spoke to his grandfather about a similar thing. Be like, I love Sadie. And his grandfather's like, I know you do. So it's also about missed opportunities. And again, maybe in the next one, that their next life, their next tomorrow, they are together.
Yeah. In that last passage, when he's talking to his grandfather, he also mentions how he's like, you had a lot of friends, and he's like, does 2 people count as a lot of friends if they meant something to you?
Yeah,
that is 100%. A lot of friends. He's like, Marks is gone. I know. Sadie has a kid that I don't know. You can get to know the kid.
Yeah.
Yep. Reach out. I love how his grandfather left her the Donkey Kong machine.
That was very cute. Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like there's so much more to this game we're not shipping. I feel like we talked a lot about this book, much more in depth than I thought we were, if I'm being honest. But that's
I mean, it had a lot of deep thoughts. I think is the big thing. Oftentimes we read things that don't have big thoughts in them, and maybe that's one of the reasons that people gravitated to this so much, because you don't always get big thoughts out of books.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want big thoughts in books. They want something that helps them leave their big thoughts behind. So
yeah.
I don't mind big thoughts. I like it.
I always enjoy it.
But I also like my my fluffy romance, or my
I do like my fluffy romances.
I do love a mind-numbing little book where I don't have to think about anything and I can just read.
Yeah, no, so do I. But sometimes it's like, all right, I'm in the middle of public transportation. Will I cry? Let's see, So,
that's the
there's this one other thing I wanted to bring up. Oh, so the final game that Sam makes for Sadie to help her with her grieving, she was mad about it. Like, oh, how dare he not say that's, me. He lied to me again. She's talking to her ex. Oh my god, what's his name again?
Dav.
Yeah. And he's like, anyone who would build a world for me, that's pretty romantic. Or he says something to that vein. Yeah. I agree.
I think that is the epitome of romance. You build a world for me? Thank you. Now get me in there. Get me out of this one.
Yeah. I do like how there were some of the NPCs, the non-player characters in the game he built for her. One of them was like a representation of Marks, and that looked like Marks's father. So even though Marks was dead, we can't see what he looked like. The possibility of what if,
Yeah.
Didn't really feel anything from it, but I did. Yeah. Anyone else want to say anything about this book?
Hopefully I actually read it and appreciate it for the art that it is.
Well, I was disappointed initially. I think it was read at a good time because, like I had said, it's very similar to Perks of Being a Wallflower, which Perks was very much a coming-of-age story for high schoolers, which is really common. And this was very much a coming-of-age story for adults. You watch them go from being a young adult to being an adult and that journey into adulthood, which is something that oftentimes, as someone in the middle of that journey, you're just expected to understand. Like,
as
you're expected to just one day be an adult. So, I think when in the middle of that transformation, reading a coming-of-age story that matches it was very poetic in a way. Because normally when you get a coming-of-age story, it is teenagers through high school, becoming young adults. And there is a very big difference between being a young adult and being an adult. And that transition, oftentimes in our society, is expected to just happen overnight, immediately. Yeah. And that's not really how it works.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. But also I thought of something else that we didn't talk about.
Always.
So the game Ichigo, in their game is a young child of you don't know if he's a boy or a girl. Later on, it becomes a boy because of the company they went with. But everyone kept saying, "Oh, it looks like Sam. It looks like Sam," and Sam became the face of Ichigo. But Sadie had a lot of resentment. She didn't like to go out in crowds and do the tour, but Sam had no problems. He changed his name. He became a whole other person, this and that. But Sadie was stuck doing Ichigo too because of they decided, because there was two companies that were like trying to bid for their game, kind of bid. One of them was like, "Yeah, I'm a dude's world. This is guys' game. We're gonna make Ichigo a boy." And but they would give him a lot of money. And the other company was like, "Yeah, you can make it a boy, girl, doesn't matter." But they were giving less money. The dudes company was like, "You just have to give out Ichigo to, right away." And it wasn't as good. A lot of people said it rode on the coattails of the first Ichigo game. Which I thought so too when they were describing it, like, "Oh, Ichigo's sister went out to sea, go save this one." So I thought so too. But for the longest time, Sam wanted to make an Ichigo 3, which Say was like, "No, I'm burnt on it." And he's like, "Why do you not like sequels? Why do you always have to do something new and fresh?" Which was interesting because, she wanted to do new things, but it was always... They didn't always come out as great with, gamers of the world. And especially like this game that she did with the Shakespeare, or like who killed the one dude.
Yeah.
They're like, "Yeah, it's very pretentious." And why didn't you tell me? He's like, "Well, just because it's pretentious doesn't mean it's not good,
Right.
But later on, when they're older, if they find out that these people want to make an Ichigo 3, they just have to, sign off on the licensing. And Sam and she eventually, Sam especially, was like, "They remind me of us, so do right by Ichigo." How do you feel about them not doing Ichigo 3 together and someone else making Ichigo 3?
I think it's a nice way to just kind of show how they both have grown.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because Sam just accepted her being like, "Yeah, that's fine." He didn't argue with her about it, because they were arguing about it a lot. Like, he really wanted to do it and she didn't, and it was a contention point for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah. On one hand,
it's a nice passing of the torch.
Mm-hmm. Because Because I actually kind of wonder how she would have made the game Sadie Ichigo 3 now that she herself is a mother. Like, I wonder what influences that would have had. Because, like, when they were in college and they were making Ichigo 1, they were talking about blood vessels bursting. They were talking about, nubs of fingers getting, blood on the keyboards. Yeah. It was very intense. Looking back, they were like, "Yeah, I don't know how we did it, but I remember reading those chapters, and it was intense for you guys."
Yeah.
Did y'all like that it was a full circle for Sadie, that, she was teaching the class that she first met Davin?
I did enjoy that. I always think it's neat when things go full circle in that kind of way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Part of me likes that, someone else is doing Ichigo 3, and another part of me is like, I want y'all to do it just to see how it is. But also...
Right.
So I'm a flipped coin there, I could go either way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You want to play Ichigo 3?
He does, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, but
he's also a very skilled gamer.
The reason why I brought this up is because during their argument, Sadie was like, everyone was like, "It's you," and she's like, "It was actually me."
Yeah.
Just the creative, like, they started off together, You know, she became bitter and jealous of his success, but she didn't want to do it. Like, and then so like on
I
one
can
hand,
understand.
I'm like, girl, why are you jealous? You could have been on that tour too, like to promote the game. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, we can still hear you.
Mine thing says unstable internet connection. I know, bitch. I live in a terrible fucking landmine.
I'm aware.
Now I can see you. Yeah, it was a good book. I don't know. And again, it's a complicated answer of saying yes, I like it, and no, I didn't like it. It's obviously a yes, I mostly liked it, but it's more complicated than that.
I think the way that we all feel about this book is very interesting because it's a book about life, and I'd say that it's very much the way I feel about life. Yeah, it's mostly good, but there are a lot of parts I don't really like about it too. Yeah. And I think that's kind of fun when you think about it.
Yeah. But I still think we had a lot of good discussion for a book that we were maybe on.
I do think so. I think it's fun when we read things that we don't necessarily like wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
I agree.
Not every book you're going to read is going to be the best thing in the world to you. You are not under no obligation to love every book that you pick up. You are under no obligation to finish every book that you decide to pick up.
I used to
never quit.
I used to
It takes
be
a lot
like
for me to quit.
I used to be someone's like, I have to finish and start, every book I started. But sometimes, like the month of July, I had a real dry spell for reading books. I read 2 books, this being one of them, and the other one was another one I read on my birthday.
The last 2 months, I forced myself to finish a couple books. And they were just not good books, in my opinion. Like, they had great premises.
Right. Yeah. You'd think I would have learned after it took me 2 years to get through Game of Thrones, but, like, no, I gotta finish it. Because what if it gets good in the last 100 pages?
That last page is probably worth it.
That's where I'm at.
Call Sarah J. Maas out right now with that. The last 100 pages.
Well, again, eventually
Lucia,
I'll read it.
I need you to read it just so that you can read the last one, because I need you to experience how often the woman explains the length and girth of this man's penis. I just need you to experience it.
Yep.
See? You just gotta get there.
I don't want to buy them. They're like 8 books. Like, it's expensive.
There's 5 books.
Not 8 yet.
Yet. There are 15 in all of that she's written.
Okay, you know what? I'll read them if I find them at a thrift store.
I think that's a reasonable compromise.
Again, I did find the Shadow and Bone books. I did find them at thrift stores.
You did, yeah.
So eventually we'll start reading those. Do y'all have anything else to say about this book?
I think I've said everything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're good.
It had... One thing I will say is I'm a pretty word person, and it had a lot of pretty words.
Yeah.
And I think that is one of the biggest reasons I enjoyed it. Like, most of my tabs in here are me just marking quotes that I liked.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were some good quotes. You got a good eye.
So, yeah.
There's some that I, made sure to take a picture of. I was like, that's actually quite inspiring. I like that one.
I agree.
Probably needs a clean butt.
I also don't have anything else to say. I thought this was a different pace for us. At least for a different pace for the book club and the book talk,
Yeah.
A different pace for just me in general. I can't speak on y'all, but I think also a different pace for y'all. And it was fun. Now, the question is, are we going to come back for September to read something? Or are we going to...
That's the goal.
Or should
your
we...
pick, though, so...
Okay, I'm gonna wait until October so we can read Interview with the Vampire.
And we'll do this spooky
that's right. You want to read that for October.
We could do that, right?
Okay.
We want to try and have that read for when you're here, though, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that one for when
So we gotta read it in September.
Yeah.
But do we want to try and fit another book before that?
I don't remember... Oh, no, that one comes out in November because the audiobook's already out. But we need to read... Julia. We need to read The Endless War, which is the next book in the Bridge Kingdom series.
Oh, it's out already?
The audiobook is out.
When does the Kindle come out?
6 months after audiobook, so I think November.
So that'll probably be
that'll be like a November pick. I want you both to read Fourth Wing.
Give me a copy.
What?
Put it in my hand.
We had it.
We
had a domestic
stuff about it
through a third person because I have 2 copies, about to be 3, of Fourth Wing, neither of which I had read. I listened to the audiobook for free through Libby.
Uh-huh.
And both of our coworkers, about 2 different jobs, was just like, give Katie a book. And I was like, no, they're mine.
I don't need to keep it. I just want to read it.
It took me far too long to realize that she was talking about you as well. I was like, why are we talking about Katie?
That was very fun.
I wouldn't mind reading the Fourth Wing. I keep seeing people pop off on it on TikTok.
I do too, yeah. Do we want to try and read that for September, and then try and read Interview with the Vampire for when you're here?
Yeah, we can do that. September, what is the dates in September?
August just started, so I feel like we can get...
Yeah. By the end of September, we can probably read 2 books.
I think so.
Yeah.
I have a lot more free time now that we've figured out how naps work.
Cool. All right. Well, I agree. We just have to do it before September 30th, obviously.
Yeah, I believe in you. You got this. You need something to read on the plane, right? You got like 4 plane rides.
Yeah, I'll probably read Interview with the Vampire on the way over there.
Checks out.
My copy is on the floor somewhere in my room.
That's that one author that everyone talks about that I'm like, I don't know who that is. And then they're like, how do you not know who that is, right?
Yeah.
Anne
Rice or whatever?
Yeah.
Yeah. Twice. 2 different instances at work, I've been like, I don't know who that is. And they're like, offended. I'm sorry. I'm almost 25 and I didn't read that.
I first read Interview with the Vampire when I was like 14, and that's the only time I've read it, and it's been a long time. But I want to watch the AMC TV show, and on one hand I'm like, I'm fine not remembering, but at the same time it's almost October. Why can't it'd be kind of fun.
Yeah, might as well read it anyways.
Yeah, that's basically what I thought. Yeah, I have nothing else to say. This was Lucia.
All right. Katie.
And Mary.
And this was Book Talk with We Know What You Like. Write down in the comments any and all thoughts that you thought about this book. I know there was so much more that was in this book that we didn't talk about. For instance, I was so happy. I was like, hey, I know that character in that video game. It was like something snake. I was like, I don't play it, but I know that character.
Oh, there's one other thing that I want to say.
Oh, go ahead.
I think it was Marks that said this. That friends are like Tamagotchi.
Oh yeah.
You just feed them every once in a while. I'm like, yeah, that's true.
That's
I
about
did
right,
like that.
yeah.
That was funny.
You check in every once in a while. You're like, hey, we still friends? Cool. See you later.
Yeah, I did like that.
All
What
right.
a great way to end this. Friendship or Tamagotchis. All right, guys. I will see y'all next time, or we will see y'all next time, with the next one being the Fourth Wing. Fingers crossed for us to get that in time.
Yeah.
We got this.
Bye.
I believe in us.
We got
Bye.
this.